Welcome to Life Stories with me, Des Tong. My guest this week is widely regarded amongst those who know as being one of the best rock and roll singers to come out of the Midlands. Welcome, Danny King.
Hello, Des, and thank you for the introduction. I don't know who's told you that. But
oh, listen, I've read it up.
Okay.
And yes, so here we are, Life Stories. And I have it on good authority. Arthur Marcel Benwell.
Thank you for telling the country that.
Was born in Summer Lane.
Well, yes, it's on the corner of Summer Lane and Theodore Street, which is now called Attenborough Close. And I haven't got a blue plaque.
Yet.
Yes, and...
what do you remember about those times?
What do I remember about those times? Well, the main thing for me is that I was supposed to go to Summer Lane School, but I didn't go, hence the supposed to.
Right.
I was nearly taken away from my mother because I played the WAG, as it was called then, for 18 months in one stretch. When I was finally made to go to school, I was able to go, call the register in my class, and then we would go from that class across the hall to another. And I was always last in the queue, and I would nip out the side door. So I actually didn't go to school.
Right.
Hasn't hurt me.
What got you into singing then?
What got me into singing? An accident, really. It was my first love is dance. I absolutely adored jiving, so I used to go to a place called the Casino Ballroom. Doesn't mean a thing to you. The Casino Ballroom was fabulous. It would be on a Monday afternoon and a Monday evening and a Saturday and a Friday. And so I would go there dancing, and I would go on at 7 o'clock and I would leave the floor at 11 o'clock. But one day, there was an announcement from the stage. The announcements are always made if you've got a request from home because something's happened. So I attended the stage only to find that a friend of mine who had entered a competition backed out and gave my name. I said, no, it's not for me. But before I knew where I was pushed to the front of the stage and I had to sing. And it was the first time I'd ever done that. Oh dear, I'm getting into very bad territory because while I was on, petrified, standing as still as a board, people came to the front of the stage. And I've got to say that I had a reasonable applause. And there were a lot of girls. So my brain says, oh, this is a good idea. So therefore I went out to find a band.
Right.
And that was quite funny. I was just walking to a friend's house and there was two guys out in the middle of the road playing guitars. And their names were Alan and Brian Hancock's. But at that time I didn't know. I was walking past and I thought, he's good. You know, I spoke to them. And cut a long story short, that was the Jukes. They became the Jukes,
yeah.
And we played in places like Churchill's Club in Holborn Street, did a stint at Butlins.
Butlins in Ayr, wasn't it?
In Ayr.
Now that must have been a journey and a half to get up to there in those days. I mean, I remember driving up to Ayr. On the motorway is bad enough, when there's no motorways.
Well, that's true, yes, thinking about it, you know, it never occurred to me, because you're right, it's much easier now. I had to go to get my son from St Andrews, and I drove overnight and back on the motorway. But I'd be blowed if I know how long it took.
Yeah.
But we got there, obviously, and that was a really good stint.
But you had an incredible collection, I believe still have an incredible collection of records, American records, that I know that Roy Wood and Carl Wayne were massive fans of yours, and they used to come round and listen to them and nick the cover versions and things like that.
Yeah,
so how did you get into that? Where did that come about?
As I say, I was a shortwave buff, and I found the American Air Force, and what they did, they played requests from home to the lads in Germany. And I'd never heard of Smiley Lewis. Nobody mentioned Smiley Lewis here. Old Joe Turner. Eventually it became known here. But there's guys out there called Herschel Hickey. Hello? With a name like that, you wouldn't think, but they were wonderful. And I heard them. So I then went and I started to import them. I imported them from Albert Schultz Incorporated, West 14th Street, New York State.
Right.
And they used to come wrapped up nicely in educational material.
Of course.
And that's how it started, really.
Right.
You know.
And were you doing cover versions of those with like the Jukes?
Yeah, I did cover songs from all the time, and I used to have them before the general population. You know, so as I say, they used to come up to see the club or wherever we were playing, just so that they could listen to the songs and nick them. Because they would ask me, and I would make up a name. I wouldn't ever tell them truthfully who it was. But they eventually found out. People like the Temptations. I mean, I think we did My Girl a year before it came out here.
Yeah. So then the Jukes, and the guy in the band was the bass player. Didn't become, was he called Clint Walker eventually? Did he change his name to
Warwick.
Clint Warwick. Clint Walker was the actor, wasn't he? Yeah, Clint Warwick.
Well, that's going back to the Jukes. They had Alan and Brian, and the name were Ancocks. And I had Clint, whose real name is Albert Eccles. Right. Now, if you can imagine saying, and the guitarist Albert Eccles, the bass player Albert Eccles, and the two lads, so we changed names.
Right.
I changed it for them.
Right.
And they became
and obviously you were already Danny King.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
I couldn't go after Benwell. Come on.
Marcel.
Oh, Marcel, it's okay. Not too bad.
So, what happened then? You know, the Jukes, did it sort of run out of steam? Did you have?
No.
Did you want to move on?
In brief, it was during the stint in Scotland. Well, I didn't particularly like the way we were managed, so I left. End of story.
Right.
Because there were a lot of people that were very naughty. I still believe that they're there today as well, you know. I think you know where I'm coming from.
Yeah, I won't disagree with you on that one.
Much.
Yeah.
But no, I didn't like the management, so I left when I came back. Right. I was quite prepared to do nothing. But then Tom and Garth came to see me, and so I joined the Royals.
The Royals, right. And you went to Germany then, didn't you?
Yeah, we did, in Hamburg, obviously, with the Beatles, etc., yeah.
Was that round about the same time?
Oh, yeah, they were, you know, round the corner.
Right.
No problem. I mean, we actually, when we came home, at the end of our stint there, I was there with a guy, my band, and the pianist in the band was Roy Young. Now, if you don't know Roy Young, have a look on the laptop. Roy Young was England's answer to Little Richard.
Right.
He was great then, terrific pianist, because I'm a fanatic on piano.
Right.
And he's just great. But have a look, please.
Roy Young, yeah, I know the name. I know the name of. I've come across him before. I think Alvin Stardust was a big fan of his.
Yeah, it was great. You know. But I've lost track. Where was I?
Well, you were in Hamburg.
Oh, in Hamburg,
yes,
yeah. When we came home, that's what I was going to say. We actually went in. We saw the Beatles, and it was in Sutton Coldfield. It was in a tin shack, and we went in to say hello, and they were working there for £12. £12.
£12. But then I suppose that wasn't bad for you know, it's quite a lot of money though in those days, wasn't it? It wasn't massive, but it was
£12.
Yeah.
Okay.
Was that each?
No, no. £12.
So then, Norrie Paramore signed you, didn't he?
Yes.
He signed, and he signed the band.
He signed.
Or did he sign you? That's the question, isn't it?
Yeah. I'm going to. What I'm going to say to you is, every time we went anywhere, the management people always wanted me and not my band, no matter what band, because I presented them with 2 or 3 bands, and they didn't want the bands. I can't go anywhere without a band.
No, I agree.
You know, did I want to go
Coming
to
from a
choreography
musician's
lessons?
background, I
Exactly.
agree with you on that.
Did I want to go to choreography lessons? Did I want to tell people to tell me that I've got to comb my hair? No.
I'm going to leave it there,
Okay.
and we're going to continue this after the break.
Okay.
Welcome back to Life Stories with me, Des Tong, and my guest, Danny King. Now, before the break, we were just talking about the fact that you went into the recording studios, but you weren't very happy about the fact that, it was you, but it wasn't your band. I mean, I sort of get that because I'm a musician and I've been in that situation before where you've worked with somebody for so long and then all of a sudden they go into a studio and they, you're surplus to requirements. But from your perspective, it's a different thing, isn't it?
Yes, it is. My bands, my boys are my boys, and without them, I just can't function. There's no way I could go into their kind of sterile world. I've got to behave myself, I've got to wear this, and I can't have that at all. So, and with regards to, I was on Columbia. Noddy was great.
Did Frank Ifield, didn't he?
Yes.
You weren't like Frank Ifield, though.
No, if you like that kind of music and his kind of generation.
Yeah.
I mean, I was a rock and roller. Believe it or not, the Beatles, they were refused by many people before they actually got, but they had George.
Yes.
And George recognised them. He changed them, and they were very lucky in that respect. And the beauty of that is that they could write their own songs.
Yeah.
Now, with me, only thing I've ever written is gospel songs.
Right.
I can't do a pop song. I just can't do it.
Yeah.
And none of my boys were writers either, not at that time anyway. So they were giving me songs to sing that I wouldn't have given house room to.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was never allowed to do a cover of an American that I wished to do because they were a little bit risque.
Right.
Because that's how it was in America.
Yeah.
Rock and roll era was very suggestive.
Yeah.
You know. That's it, really.
So you came back.
Yeah.
And then you got together with what was going to be probably one of the biggest bands in the world. With Graham Edge,
talking about
Denny Lane. That must have been interesting. How did that come about?
We're doing an outdoor event for Rob Pryke, who ran the, a club anyway, a nightclub. And his home was in Earlswood Lakes.
Right.
It's a big manor house.
Yeah, I know.
So he had marquees in the garden, and Denny was playing with his band, and I was playing with my band. And to cut a long story short, he approached me after that and said, Danny, look, when we, in other words, like the Move and everybody else that have subsequently gone on, they were young and they got together to make a supergroup.
Yeah.
Well, that was okay. And I said, all right, yes, that's not a problem. We then found Graham, then took Clint across, and we started to form the band, and it was called the M&B 5 at the time. I've got to say that I only went to 3 rehearsals. I went for 3 rehearsals because I'd agreed to go, but I'm afraid it wasn't for me. And the reason for that is they were playing one form of music, blues. And that's what they were doing.
Yeah.
And you can't put me in a little space. I do all kinds of things.
Yeah.
Whatever the mood takes me, I'll do. So I wasn't happy, so I left the guys to it.
Right.
And they became the Moody Blues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then you teamed up with a guy who's been on here before, Trevor Burton,
Yeah.
and Keith,
Yeah.
Keith Smart. The Mayfair Set,
Yeah.
of which we've got a great photograph here of brilliant old van,
Yeah.
and the writing on the side.
Yeah.
How was that? That must have been good.
Well, it was. I mean, Trevor joined me. He keeps telling everybody he was 15. I'm not sure whether he was 15 or 16.
I think he told me that as well when he was on here.
He was young.
Yeah.
He was young. I, whenever they came to play with me, I would just have a telephone conversation, and if they struck me and virtually told me that they wanted my job, yeah, I would take them. And he was cheeky. So was Keith Smart. They were both very cheeky, and I said, okay. And they were in. That was when we had to have a replacement for one reason or another.
Yeah.
And it was a great time. It was a great time. We went to Germany with those guys. We had a fabulous time in a place called Fulda. There are stories, but I can't tell them here.
Need another series.
Exactly.
Okay, then let's switch to. You then joined after then the Locomotive.
Yeah,
with
sure,
Jim
space,
Simpson,
yeah.
who now obviously does, and Jim's been on this program as
Yeah,
well.
good old Jim,
does
he's
the
blowing his
Jazz Festival.
trumpet.
Yeah. And then there was this long gap, wasn't there? After
long
that,
gap. Yeah, well, the long gap is simply because I'm finished. I finished. And I suppose I was out of the business 40 years. What I did was I met a young woman. And this young woman said I'd got to have a proper job.
Oh, right.
And when girls tell you
Yeah.
you've got to have a proper job, that's precisely what you've got to have. She'd even gone to the lengths of getting me an interview at a store of Dixon's in Union Street.
Right.
And she actually came to my home to pick me up, to drive me to the interview, because she knew that if she didn't, I wouldn't go.
Right.
So I went along to Dixon's, and I was shoved in the front door. I went to my interview, and they said, do you know anything about electronics? No. Do you know anything about cameras? No. So I said no to everything. And I went through this interview thinking, that's it. And I came out and I said to her, she said, how are you getting on? I said, fine, I'm on a short list. Obviously, it wasn't true. But lo and behold, they actually sent me notification that I was going to start the following Monday. I mean, why I got the job, I have no idea. But nevertheless, I went along because I was taken again.
Yeah.
And I walked into the store. I knew nothing about anything. I was put on the photographic counter and no instructions, nothing at all, just left on the counter. And to cut a long story short again, a customer came in and I suddenly found myself, because the other guys had vanished, they'd gone for a cup of tea or whatever, you know, and I was alone on this photographic counter. Well, this lady and gentleman came in and they were having a look around, and then they approached me. And oh my God, you know, I'm in trouble here. What am I going to say? What he did was, I'll have one of those. All I'd got to do was pick up a box and take the lady and gentleman to the cash desk, and that was it. The buzz I got out, I'd done nothing, but I got a real buzz out of that. So
we're running out of time.
Oh, sorry.
I'm going to fast forward you.
Yeah.
After all this time out, you then come back.
Yeah, that was due to Charlie.
With this Carl Wayne, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was due to Carl Wayne, who I hadn't been, as I say, 36 years or something like that it was, and he asked me if we would do it, and of course it was Carl, and I love Carl, so I said yes, and we got together, but unfortunately it was to happen the following year, but he died. He died. And we just carried on. We carried on for him. He had his position at the back because we had a large screen. Because that was the only reason I was there is if Charlie could have his
right. And that was Brum Rocks, wasn't it?
Yeah. And we did, I don't know, I think I've gone 8 years with them. And
Bevan.
Finished 2 years. Yeah, it's Bev and
was
Trev
with it.
and Joy and in the early days, Laurie Hornsby.
Laurie Hornsby.
You know,
Another guest, Raymond Froggatt.
Well, he's not a guest. He's not
He's
a
been
guest.
a guest
Oh,
on
a
my
guest
show.
here. Oh,
Yes,
right.
yeah.
I was going to say he's not a guest.
Yeah, he's a guest on my
did
show.
Yeah. And it was good fun too. That was really good fun.
So, I mean, after all this time, there you are back, still rocking and rolling.
No, I retired again. I do go to the occasional one. It's true. Yes, I do. But they are occasional.
Never leaves you, though, does it?
Well, let me tell you, for that 36 years I was with Dixon's and, you know, and the rest of it, I had 2 lords that I've made millions for, and I enjoyed that time. But I didn't miss rock and roll or anything else. I became absolutely committed to my company.
Right.
Because believe you me, Lord Combs, he only owned it. It was my company. It was. And
Fantastic.
my staff, if I could go to work today, it wouldn't be to do rock and roll. It would be to go and work in retail.
It's been fantastic to talk to you. Thank you so much for coming in.
Des, I'm sorry, but it's your fault. You invited me. Oh, dear. Thank you.
Thank you, Danny.
No problem.
Join me again for another one of my guests on Life Stories.